Hello and welcome to a new episode about building the B.B.M.1930s model railroad layout. In my last video I presented my methods for laying track and turnouts. Now I show you how to weather and ballast track so it looks like the real thing. Key elements to get this look is a prototypical looking track system like Rolf Weinert's Gleis, and a ballast that is to scale with a mix of different colors. And of course you need the right colors for the rail and the ties. I usually make by my own by blending different color pigments in a matte varnish. As you may remember, this was the closing scene of my last video, and this was the track plan of the area. I decided to add a ready track, so there will be a total of 5 turnouts here. I did the whole track work the usual way shown in the mentioned video, always trying to perfectly align the new tracks with those already there, and this is the result ready for weathering. Before applying colors, the track needs to be cleaned with some cleaning alcohol or petrol. I use a brush to do this. Now the track is ready for airbrushing. This is just one method to paint track. The other is to first airbrush the tie color and then cover the ties before airbrushing the rails color. I use low pressure to limit the fumes. Immediately after airbrushing, I take a piece of wood to remove the paint from the rail head. This has proven to be really the easiest way to do this. From time to time I turn the piece of wood to get a new and clean edge to do a good job. Now I paint the ties with a brush and a blend of color pigments diluted in a matte acrylic varnish. I mix my own colors because I'm just not happy with the degree of matting of commercial model colors. I carefully paint around the clamps so they are left with the rail color. The paint is highly diluted with water, and once dry you won't see any brush strokes. Painting the ties this way is quite time consuming. To make the ties look spotty like the prototype, I apply some additional paint with a slightly different color. In the 1930s, turnouts in Germany were switched by hand with a lever in the signal tower that pulled some steel cables connected to the point blader. To imitate these housings of the turnout drives, I use Weinert parts. According to a technical drawing, the standard distance to the track was usually 6 mm in HO scale, so I use a spacer to align the part. After cleaning, that part is painted a gray-black matte color. A quite common place for the turnout signal is in that corner. To imitate the grease on the slide plates of the turnouts, I paint them tar black and apply some real grease with a toothpick. On their pass from the signal tower to the turnout, the steel cables are protected by coverings I model with styrene strips and again parts from Weinert Modellbau. Now the track is ready to be ballasted. With my method, it's important to not apply too much ballast at the beginning. It's easier to add some missing ballast later on once the ballast has been wiped off the ties. Ballasting is definitely a very time-consuming job when building a layout, and a time-lapse would be really useful. To distribute and wipe the ballast off the ties, I use a self-made kind of ballast broom made of a little wood block and a wrapped around piece of velours fabric. You can see here in the blue color. It's necessary to do more than one loop of dropping ballast and wiping it off for perfect results. My experience is that it's much more convenient to use this self-made different size ballast brooms instead of brushes, especially if you are dealing with to scale fine ballast or smaller scales than HO. For difficult areas as turnouts, I made a special thin broom to access the space between the rails. At the end, to handle single pieces of ballast, I use a small brush too. Once the ballast is ready to be glued, the next steps are those commonly applied by all modelers around the world. With a very fine spray pump, I water the track with wetted water from quite a distance to avoid flushing away the ballast. The track has to be very wet. For the gluing process, I use a latex white glue diluted 1:6 with wetted water. I use a 10 milliliter syringe with a blunt cannula to apply the glue directly into the roadbed, trying to avoid to flush the ties. After a couple of hours of drying, the roadbed is finished. And the episode ends here too. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know, leave a comment. Looking forward to get in touch with you. Thanks for watching and goodbye.